Hey everybody, welcome to the Fertility Coach and welcome to my channel. It's pretty new, so thank you for tuning in, and if you like the content I'm talking about and stuff I'm talking about, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So if you haven't watched my first lot of videos, it was my top 10 tips for getting pregnant. So go and watch those because they're things that you can implement before watching like the general stuff, and that's the reason I did them. Some of the stuff is going to take a while to implement. So one of the things that I get asked about a lot was what changed for me. So what changed for me from having years of not being able to get pregnant, and when I did get pregnant, unfortunately it resulted in miscarriage, to getting pregnant, staying pregnant and having Remy. So a lot of people said what changed, they noticed a massive change in me, in my attitude, in my personality and all of that. So I'm going to talk to you about what changed for me, and it's something I talk about a lot with people because I'm hugely passionate about it, and it's a huge part of my coaching programs that I offer. So if you don't follow me, first of all, on Facebook, head over on the Fertility Coach, and on Instagram on Fertility Coach UK. Head over there. Lots of videos, and I talk a lot about my experiences and the programs that we do and things that change. So by the time we came to getting pregnant with Remy, or trying for our second cycle of IVF, that was 2014. We've been trying like 4.5 years then. And I was downtrodden, I was upset, thought the world was against me, it was never going to happen. I almost just felt obligated to try again with the IVF because we'd got to. And I'd got to keep on trying. And in my head, I'd convinced myself, what's the point in trying, it's going to fail. Every month that went past, I thought, what's the point in buying a pregnancy test because it's going to be negative, but I still went and did it anyway. So I'd really got myself down. I'd spoke yesterday about the way that I identified myself. So my identity was infertility, not being able to get pregnant, a failure, useless wife. I was going to be a useless mother if I was ever one. I couldn't do what everyone else could do. There was something wrong with me. Karma was getting me for something. Maybe I'd done something wrong or bad in the past. And don't get me wrong, we all have, I was early 20s. I probably had done quite a lot of wrong stuff and, pushed the boundaries a few too many times, but hey ho. So I was reliving all of those moments in my head. What have I done wrong? What, am I getting karma served to me? Why can someone else be able to get pregnant like that and I can't? And my body's failing, and I started to resent my body. So therefore I wasn't giving my body the right things, as in food, as in energy, as in supplements and health. I wasn't taking care of myself because the reality of the matter is I didn't care about myself. And I didn't, and that's a really hard thing for me to say now because I'm really big on self-love and self-care, but I didn't care about myself anymore. Like, if I couldn't have a baby, that's I almost saw myself as the shell that had the baby, and that was it, and that was my sole purpose. And I'd got myself into that place. So when our first cycle of IVF failed, I can't describe that feeling. It's hard. It's really hard, and it's really hard to see your partner going through that and to try and keep picking each other up and carrying each other along and going and having to explain to both sets of parents, when my dad was still alive at the time, that this isn't good, it's not worked and whatever. And also waiting for answers, like waiting to go back to the clinic, waiting to try and find out why it hadn't worked, when could we try again, how much was it going to cost us, because finances were a big thing. So we didn't have the result we wanted, and we also had no answers. And I'm not going to say immediately because it wasn't, so that was the November. And in around the March, I'd sort of decided that I'm going to take control of my life back, because I felt like I'd gone along then for 5 years on this roller coaster and I was on this roller coaster, but I had no control over it. I had no control over how fast I was going, where I was going, where I was heading, how many times I went round. Like, I couldn't pause this roller coaster and get off and just have a bit of a breather and get my thoughts together. I was just permanently on this roller coaster. And someone else had all the controls, and that's a horrible feeling. It's really horrible, and it's draining. So I decided, I didn't know how, but it wasn't going to happen like that anymore. I'd made this decision in my head, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get some control back in my life. So I started to, and if you watch my videos, you'll probably get sick to death of me saying about building chapters of your life and chapters of your own story, and getting like really hot on information about you. So I've said before in other videos, and I talk a lot about, you know, I would sit and spend 2 hours looking at things, looking at different forums, but not using that time, what I call wisely, being specific on what I needed to know. So I did a bit of a list and said, okay, well, this is my age, this is what I know. My ovulation levels weren't great naturally, so I've tried Clomid, we've already done that. I've tried a cycle of IVF, we've already done that. I've got endometriosis, and my endometriosis started off in the pouch of the Douglas area, which I had no clue what the hell that was until I got my diagnosis, so I knew about that. That then seemed to trigger this whole world, which has only really cleared up the last year, of questions about IBS, celiac disease, intolerances, inflammations, and they all seem to go hand in hand. So I thought, right, rather than me sitting and spending 2 hours every night looking at useless crap, basically, that's not going to help me, because as much as it made me feel supported or gave me that glimmer of hope that I'm going to just pick a name from random, Gemma, as Gemma's one of my friends, and she hasn't been through infertility stuff, but it's just to pick a name, that Gemma from America in 2007 had put a post on that I might relate to. That wasn't going to help me. So I thought, right, I need to concentrate on me, on myself, on our story, our journey. So I started to look into endometriosis more, what it actually meant, rather than, I don't know, you know, depending where you are in the world, but when I got diagnosed with endometriosis, I was given like a little bit of information at the doctor's. I went for my laparoscopy. Yep, see ya, that was it. So I looked on the internet specifically about endometriosis. I bought books, I watched videos, I researched a lot, and I spent the time that I would normally be spent faffing, that what I call faffing around, just not really doing or learning much or educating myself much, flipping from one website to another, to a forum, to this, to that, being really specific on what I wanted to learn. So I looked into that. I looked into the pouch of the Douglas and really understood my body. Okay, that's fine. One of the things I talk a lot about, and it's not just anything I ever say is never to shame anyone. It's because I think that we've got a really bad education system when it comes to fertility and what actually happens. You know, in a lot of school systems and education systems, it's okay, well, the egg meets the sperm and the lady's pregnant. You know, it's not that simple. And when I speak to people on my coaching calls, I say, okay, do you know, without teaching you how to sort of suck eggs, as the phrase goes, do you know what happens when you ovulate? Do you know what happens to that egg if it's not fertilised with the sperm? And I didn't. All I knew is I needed to release an egg and I needed marked sperm, and that would make us a baby, hopefully. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know where those eggs exactly came from, went to, how they travelled, what happened, the timings, what happened to the egg if it didn't. I didn't know, and that wasn't my shame. That wasn't something I'd done wrong. It's because we're not taught it. So I started to get really hot on my knowledge on my body, on endometriosis, on where my specific endometriosis was. I looked at celiac disease, on IBS, on inflammations. Through that as well, I also found out that I'd got fibromyalgia, so I started looking into that. And then what I started to do was build up this like book about myself where I could go, okay, well, I know that, and I know that that's where my endometriosis is, and my IBS seems to play up more when I have that, and those two linked together, okay, that can cause that and that can counteract that, and I'm taking that tablet and that's got that medication in, but actually that's not very good for people with fibromyalgia. So if I bought a supplement, if I bought a cream, if I bought anything that I was using for my fertility, I would research it. So I'd literally get the back of a packet and be like, right, okay, what's in that? And if it's advertised to make me more fertile and make me ovulate more, why? What's in it? What? And then I would research that ingredient. What's in that that's going to make me ovulate more, and how does it work? So I started to build this book of chapters about myself, about my body, about my diagnosis, and about my journey. And whilst doing that, I also monitored everything. And if you've worked with me, you'll know, and if you've watched my videos, you'll know that I talk about monitoring temperature, about ovulation predictor kits, about cervical mucus, and just write it all down. So have like a diary or a planner or something that you can write it all down, because what we want to build is something that you can take into your gynaecologist or clinic or doctor or whoever you're going to see and say, yep, there you go, there's my book. That's me. That's just not, the generic someone who's come in and said they can't get pregnant. That's about me. That's what I know about myself. And if you get more information in that appointment, go away and learn more. So I started to get really hot on my knowledge, and that made the world of difference, because I could really begin to understand why things were happening and why things weren't, and if something wasn't, what that meant to the next part of the process. So that was really good, and I invested, and I talk about people investing, and people automatically assume that I mean money and invest in one of my coaching programs. I mean, yes, you do need to financially invest, and I don't just mean in my coaching programs, but time. You need to invest time. So the time that you flip around on your phone and go from this forum or this website or this, go backwards and forwards, use the time wisely. Start to learn about what you need to learn about. Be specific on you. So use your time wisely, invest your time wisely. If you are using, like I said, I always recommend tracking everything. So if you're using ovulation predictor kit, if you're using temperature, that's an investment, because you're buying equipment to ovulate, to see if you're ovulating, when you're ovulating. So certain things will be more to start with. So your ovulation kits, until you've really honed in and zoned in on when you probably are going to be, then you tend to use more. Pregnancy tests. I don't know one person who's going through or has been through infertility that buys one test a month and does it on the day of their missed period or after. Because man, I did not have that control. Ooh, no. Like, I would say my average was probably 6 tests a month. And I would buy the clear blue or the first response ones that were 2 in a pack. So I was probably spending between £30 and £40 a month on pregnancy tests. So invest in knowledge about yourself, whether that's time on the internet, which the internet's a wonderful place now, but one thing I will say with fertility is be very careful, because like I said earlier about you can find a post, we're in 2020 now, you can find a post from someone in 2007 who's describing the exact same 2-week wake symptoms of you, and you're convincing yourself you're pregnant. Use the time on you. So invest time. If you've had a diagnosis, so if you've got PCOS or endometriosis or low egg reserve, or start to really invest in it. So if it's buying books, if it's watching things, if it's, good old Google, be more specific. When you are buying, there's a place in the market for everything, but when you're buying ovulation and pregnancy tests, I'm not going to say buy, and there's not particular, I don't really work with brands or anything, so I don't overly recommend anything, but just be careful with cheap brands is what I'm going to say, and try and be as respectful as possible about it. But be careful, and be sure that you know how you are reading something in the brand. Don't assume things are the same, especially with ovulation tests. A lot of them are very different, and some will pick up when you're ovulating, some will pick up a spike and tell you that you're going to be ovulating in 48 hours. So be sure on what you're buying. And one of the huge, and I believe it was a game changer for me, was I started having fertility acupuncture, and I had fertility hypnotherapy, and then later on I started having Reiki and fertility massage and a few other things, but every single week, without fail, I had fertility acupuncture and fertility hypnotherapy every week without fail. And I'll admit, sometimes I thought, God, I can't really afford this. This was 2014, so just the fertility acupuncture was like £50-60 a week then. But you know what? We found the money and I did it. And I didn't get pregnant and just stop doing it. It gave me the calm, it gave me some control back, it made me feel like I was doing something. Now, I can't guarantee that these things were what got me pregnant at that time or what would get you pregnant, but I can guarantee you it's what made me feel a hell of a lot better, a hell of a lot more in control, a hell of a lot more positive, a hell of a lot more calmer, in a positive place, in control. I felt more grounded. I felt that I had some say and I was doing something, even if it wasn't that thing that worked. It gave me that reassurance that I was doing something. So those are the things that were game changers for me. Research, spending my time wisely, building my own little book about myself, so creating chapter after chapter, monitoring everything, and investing time. When I was buying something, I understood why I was buying it, what it was going to do for my body, and made sure that it didn't counteract anything else and that it wasn't going to aggravate any of my other conditions. So I stopped faffing about, and I talk a lot about faffing about. You know, we live in a world where it's so easy to just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and before we know it, 2 hours has gone. But be really specific, make a list of what you want to know. Like, do you understand? If someone said to you now, right, describe what happens from the minute that you are starting to try to conceive to your egg getting fertilised and your baby starting to grow, your fetus growing, do you know? I would say 90% of people don't. And that's not to shame anyone, because I didn't. I went and educated myself about it. So use your time wisely, invest in yourself time and financially, and for your mindset. Mindset is such a huge part of this. So I am going to do another video purely on mindset, because it's something I'm hugely passionate about. Yes, I'm a fertility coach, but I also do fertility hypnotherapy because I know how much it helped me. I know how much the visualization helped me, and how it allowed me to start to see what could be, and that's what is for me now. So if you like these videos, you like the content, please like and subscribe, and my next video will be about mindset, so please tune in.